Hello and welcome to another computer vision tutorial video. So in this video I'm going to talk about persistence with blobs, ID numbers with blobs. So what do I mean by that? So you can see this is a cup that's in my right hand and this is a cup that's in my left hand. And I previously made two other videos about how to do this kind of blob tracking thing from scratch. Although in truth, you might just want to use a library for it, which I'll show you in a future video. But even so, most libraries won't even do the next step. I mean, some do, I'm sure, but a lot of libraries won't do the next step, which I'm going to show you is, how do I know that this is the same cup over time and that this is the same cup over time? What if I always wanted to replace this cup with an image of a hedgehog and replace this cup with an image of a tortoise? So, I won't get into weird animal pictures in this video. I'm just going to use numbers. So let's look and see first what happens if I just try to number these cups. So where am I drawing them? I am drawing them right here in this loop right here. I'm saying, oh, first of all, I'm only bothering to look at any blobs that have a size. I don't want to look at little blobs. I forgot that I had that in there. But I'm only showing blobs that have a particular size. So one thing that I could do is I could just say int I equals 0. And here I could say I++. I could just number them according to the order that they are in the array. And I'm going to put I in here, and then in the blob function, it's going to get a number. And right afterwards, I could say text align center, and I'm going to say text size 6. I'm going to try to make it big. Fill 0 and text that number. And where should it be? It should be at min x plus max x times. This is like a little bit silly, but I'm trying to find the middle of the blob. You know what? I think I have a function called getX, and no, I did that in a different program. I did that in max x minus min x times 0.5. This is a little bit silly here, but I'm just going to do this really quickly so you can see what I mean. Min y, max y minus min y. This is just me finding the center of that rectangle. And now what I'm going to do is run this again, and we should see some numbers. Come on, blobs. You can see I have a 0 and a 1. Now, first of all, I forgot some things. Let's clean up some other stuff. Text size 64. I am drawing some other text. Text size 12. Let's just leave that smaller. And also, you notice how it wasn't really in the center. Let's actually draw it just at the max y minus a little bit above the bottom, the text. So I should have added this before I started recording this video, but now you can see the problem. Here's blob 0. Oh no, here's blob 0. Here's blob 1. Watch this. Uh-oh, that's 0, that's 1, that's 0, that's 1, that's 0, that's 1, right? Because the order that I'm finding them just has to do with where they are. Like this, this one is always going to be 0. Anything that's up at the top left, right? This is like way too much fun. So the order of the array means nothing. They're in a particular order in the array just because of the order that I found them. And then, what happens if I try to add a third one? You can see that I can't reliably. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. So I need a better system for this. The blob detection, the point of this is that the blob detection algorithm doesn't take into account time or history of a scene that it's looking at. The only thing it takes into account is this instantaneous moment, and it says, here are the blobs that I see right now in some arbitrary order. So in order to be able to track which blob is which over time, we need some methodology for doing that. And in that sense, we need another object. So the particular program that I wrote in the previous videos has this blob class, which keeps track of a blob object. But what the program does is it takes a scene, which might have two blobs in it, and it just says, let me find the blobs in that scene, and then let me erase them, and let me look again and find the blobs in the scene, let me erase them, let me look again. So I'm not keeping track of a history. So what I want to do is add a new array list, which is essentially going to persist over time. So this array list, in the first frame of the program, if it sees two blobs, it takes those two blobs, and you can think of this as the array list that's persisting over time. It then puts two blobs in that array list. And then it goes and looks at the next frame, it looks for the blobs again. And maybe it finds 2 blobs, it tries to match them with what's in that history. So, and then suddenly if there were 3 blobs, well, we have to match which one is A and which one is B, and then create a new one. And then what if it suddenly only sees 1 blob? Well, then it needs to find which one of these matches and then delete the other 2. So we're essentially always looking at what are the current blobs, what were the previous blobs, and can we match which one is which? And which opens a very interesting question, like how do we match which one is which I will get to in a moment. Okay, so let's come back here and let's look at the code and sort of see where are we going to add this stuff. So you can see there already is this array list called blobs. But I'm going to change this. I'm going to add another array list. And I'm going to say current blobs. So current blobs are the current blobs for this particular frame. And the array list blobs will actually store the blobs over time, that persistence, that history of blobs. So one thing I want to change right now is just change all of this. So I need to look at current blobs instead right here. And I need to also add this to current blobs. And then here I want to look at all the current blobs. So this should be, whoops, oh sorry, this is wrong. I want to add the blob to current blobs. So this should be, and this should be current blobs. So this is still the same exact program. Same exact program, but I'm just calling the thing current blobs. And you can see, whoa, something crazy has happened. What happened? I forgot something really important, which is that I need to say current blobs dot clear. Now, I want to back out of some things that I did previously. I don't want to use this arbitrary index into the array as a way of giving the blobs an ID. Obviously, we're going to do something more sophisticated. That's the whole point of doing this program. But I am going to leave this code in here that draws the number. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the blobs an ID number. Okay? And that way, every time we make a new blob, it gets its particular ID. So that's going to be, right now all the blobs have an ID of 0. And the other thing I want to change here is, before when I was just showing the current blobs, I was eliminating small blobs by just not showing them. But what would make more sense, honestly, would be for me here, right after I found all the blobs, to just delete any small ones. And I'm going to go through the array backwards. I is greater than or equal to 0, I minus minus. And if blobs dot get index I dot size is greater than 500, then actually is remove the right function, remove that particular blob. So what I want to do is at the end of all of this, right? First I want to analyze the image and find the blobs that are in it. Then I want to delete any small blobs. And by the way, this is current blobs. Very important that I say current blobs, current blobs, current blobs. And actually, just to be totally clear about what's going on, is I don't even want to have this as a global variable. I want to just take this, and instead of saying current blobs.clear, every frame I'm going to make a new array list called current blobs. Because I'm just going to look at what the current blobs are, and then down here, once I've analyzed and removed all the blobs, now this is the part where I need to match current blobs with blobs. So now I want to go back to the whiteboard because we have a very important question to ask. What are the 3 possible ways that current blobs and blobs could relate to each other? That was a very awkward way of phrasing that question. But basically, there could be more current blobs than blobs, right? This is the case where I might see 3 current blobs, but in my history, there's only 1. So previously, there was only 1. There could be fewer current than blobs. So I could have just say only seeing 2 blobs, but I had 4 previously. Or there could be equal blobs. So there could previously have been 2, and there could now currently be 2. So I need to account for all 3 of these possible scenarios. And you can see what I might do. Like, oh, in this case, I need to add 2 more blobs. Or in this case, I need to delete 2 blobs. Or in this case, I just need to match these 2 with these 2. So let's first look at the first scenario, which is, what if current blobs dot size is greater than current blobs dot size is greater than blobs dot size. Okay, so let's consider that as the first scenario. And actually, you know what? I'm going to be a little bit. I'm going to have to make things easy on myself. I might be able to combine this stuff later. But really, I could just say, what if blobs is empty? If my history of blobs is empty, then any blobs that are in current blobs need to be part of that history. So I could just say, for all blobs that are in current blobs, blobs.add b. So this is possibility 1. There are no blobs. Possibility number 1, there are no blobs, so I don't have to do any matching, just add them all. Now, I'm going to do something else. Else, if blobs.size equals current blobs.size. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to now look at just the second scenario. What if I previously had 2 blobs and now, oh, and here's the other thing, by the way, I should give them an ID number. And let's actually keep track of counter, blob counter, set it equal to 0. So I'm going to just keep counting up and give them IDs over time. So here's where I want to set. This is where if I'm ever adding a blob, I want to give it a particular ID. And then, I'm losing my mind. And then I want to say blob counter plus plus. Okay, so now we need a method for saying I have these current blobs, I have these previous blobs, which one is which? And so the method I'm going to use right now is a really simple one. I'm just going to say if I'm a blob that's detected, let me find a blob in the previous frame that I'm closest to. We could do more sophisticated things by looking at the velocity of a blob over time and which way it's moving and try to predict its location and look at its size and also do matching with that. But all of that stuff is kind of dressing that we could add on later to make it more accurate. I want something basic that's going to sort of be good enough. So I just want to look for the closest. So the first thing I'm going to do is say, for all blobs in my current blobs, I then want to look at all, and sorry, by the way, that's my history of blobs. My naming is a little confusing here. I want to look at all for all current blobs in current blobs. And here I want to have record distance is, I'm going to make up some really big number, right? I'm just going to say, and I'm just going to use the processing distance function. I'm not going to worry about square roots. So I'm going to say record distance is like 1,000 pixels away. And I'm going to say, first give me the distance between, now. I really want to have a variable that keeps track of the center of the blob, because the way my variables are, they're keeping track of the top left and the bottom right of the blob. So I think what I should do is make a variable called, I'm just going to call it actually x. And you know what? I think I'll just calculate it on the fly. I'm going to write a function. This is a little bit goofy. I'm going to write a function called x, which I don't like that. I'm going to say get x, which returns max x minus min x times 0.5 plus min x, right? That's the left side of the blob plus the width of the blob, which is the maximum minus the minimum divided by 2. So, and actually, I'm going to just call this get center, and I'm going to return a new p vector that has, and I'm going to be long-winded about this. This is the x, and this is the y. This is turning into a rather long video, and I'm going to return a p vector x, y. So I think I'm going to need this quite a bit. So this is just a function, and it should return a p vector, not be void. That just gives me the center of the blob whenever I want it, because what I want is center B is this particular blob's get center, and then I want center CB. I need much better naming. That other blob's center, and then I want to look at the distance between those two. And if that distance is less than the record distance, then the record distance is that distance. And guess what? That blob is the current reigning one that I've matched. So what I'm going to do here is I also need to say, make a variable called matched. So, and now I'm going to say matched is that particular current blob. And at the end, what I'm going to do is say the blob.id equals, interestingly enough, so the blob has changed its size. So I also want to like copy all of its stuff over. But rather than doing that, I wonder if, would it work for me to just say this blob is equal to that blob, and then it's, okay, that blob's ID is equal to that blob's ID, and then set, let's see, this particular, matched, right. The matched ID is the blob's ID that I just checked, and then the blob itself is then equal to matched. Now I'm a little worried that this is going to be an issue. Let's see, why, and I can say null, just it's giving me a little error here. So let's think about this. So let's think about this algorithm. I'm really thinking this through here. So let's say, okay, so I start with no matched blob. Then I go through all of my current blobs, and I'm looping through, okay, whoa. I'm going through all of the pre-existing blobs, and I'm finding the one that's closest in the current blobs. When I find it, I give that matched one that blob's ID, and then I set that blob back equal to it. So let's just run this for a second and see what happens. Now, I'm not going to be able to add or delete blobs in this case, because I'm only ever doing something when I have no blobs or the equal number of blobs. So I should get, let's see what went wrong. Nothing, yay, that's always a good sign. So let's see, if blobs is empty, go through all the current blobs, add them. Okay, so let's add some debugging here. Adding blobs. Let's see if we ever get this. Oh, no, this should be fun. So blobs should be empty right now. Oh, if it's empty, and guess what? I only want to do this, but it should. And current blobs dot size is greater than 0. Like, I don't want to do anything if there aren't any current blobs. Okay, let's see here. Why did I added some blobs? So you know what? So I think it got a small blob must have appeared. I might have to edit this part out. Guess what? If you would like to see the results of your code in the window, it helps to draw the stuff in the window. Okay, so now I'm going to come back here and say, for all the blobs in blobs, b.show. Let's add that back in. And now, so you can see it got my nose as a blob. And can I update it if I just have one blob kind of near it? Now you would think that this would at least be able to match it with this. So let's see if I can get that to work. So one thing that I want to give myself some debugging information on the screen. I don't really care about the distance and color threshold right now. So what I want to draw is text, and I'm going to, hold on. I'm going to draw some debugging information on the screen. Hold on. And I want to draw, just say blobs.size, and I want to draw current blobs dot size, and make this one a little further down. And actually, let's have this be below. So, and hopefully that's going to be big enough for me to see it. You can't really see it that well. Let me zoom in. Whoops. Hold on. Let me make this much bigger. Sorry, everybody. Here we go. Let's see what's happening here. OK, so there's no blobs in either. One blob. Now, my matching is not updating. OK, so you can see that even when even when it detects one more blob, it should match. That first blob was detected. It should match and follow it because it's the closest blob. So now we need to debug and figure out why that's not working. So I knew I didn't really like the way of doing this. I think I've got a variable reference issue. I've got this variable that's sitting in the array list, but if I assign it, I think I've kind of lost it. It's still, so I don't think this is going to work. What I want to do is write a function. I think what's going to be a much better strategy is to say blob.copy matched. Is copy the right thing, or maybe follow or become? Let's call it become. So what I want is this particular blob to become the matched blob. It keeps its ID, but it, oh no, the camera's about to shut off. It keeps its ID, but it then takes on all of the characteristics of the blob that it's matched. So I'm going to do that. So I need to write a function called become, and it receives another blob. So really all I need to do is just say min x. I just want to copy, and I'm sure we could come up with a more efficient way of doing this. But I just want to copy all the properties of one blob to another. And since the ID is here in this blob that already exists, I don't have to worry about copying the ID. So that should work. And now let's do this. Let's see if this fixes that particular problem. There we go. So you can see whenever it detects it, it kind of follows it. Why is it being so, why is the detection suddenly so poor? I wonder if my color calibration is off. Guess what, everybody? No wonder my code was performing so strangely. Instead of removing the small blobs, notice I'm removing them if the size is greater than 500, because before I was only drawing them if the size was greater than 500. So I actually want to delete all the small blobs, not the big ones, and that's why it was working very, very poorly. And this should fix that. And we can see now I'm matching this blob perfectly. But I have to, okay, but I'm actually getting them both as 0. So hold on, because when I was debugging this, I started drawing the current blobs. And actually, this is useful to do, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so now let's see what we've got so far. We now have one blob that is always ID 0, but this one is never going to be picked up because I don't have any code for when there are more blobs than when there were more blobs than was previously detected. So let's go now into the algorithm and let's figure that out. So I now have code for if the and I have to fix some things, but that's okay. If the blobs are empty and there are current blobs, just add them all. And now I actually want to change this. Now I want to do something if the amount of blobs are less than or equal to the current blobs. So in this case, even if they're less than or equal to, I would still, oh, this is great, because I kind of already have the code for this. I would match all of the blobs that I can match, and then what's ever left over, I'm just going to add new blobs. But here's the thing. Something I didn't add to this code is I can't match a blob twice. So what if this one is, if this current blob gets matched, I can't say it's two different blobs at the same time. So one thing that I want to do is in my blob, I want to create a Boolean variable called matched, which by definition is set to false. And then here, if the matched, I don't like that I called this matched and now I made my Boolean variable name match, because now I'm in the business of saying match.matched equal true. So let's think of, I'm going to call this taken. Like it's taken, it's not taken, it's still available to be matched. So I'm going to say, once it's found, its state is taken. And if its distance is less than the record distance, and that particular blob is not taken, then it can be matched. So in this case, only blobs that haven't been matched before can then be matched with a new blob in a new frame. So once that's happened, right, all I need to do is say, after all of that matching is done, so this is like match whatever blobs you can match, and now after that, whatever is left over, make new blobs. So how do I do that? I look at all the blobs in current blobs, and I say, if that blob is not taken, if it was not matched, then what? I do exactly what I did when I was adding new blobs. So it's blob, I give it its ID being the counter, I add it, and then I increase the counter. So now, if I run this code, I'm pretty sure we now have the ability to say, here's blob 0, here's blob 1. I wonder why. Now the problem is I can never remove them. Come back. Why is it? One thing. So this is in fact working. The issue is it's going to break. You can see how the IDs are staying. It's going to completely break once one of the blobs goes away. Actually, it didn't completely break. It's doing weird things because I can't ever delete blobs. So the blobs can get stuck very easily because I don't have a way, although this is sort of a nice effect, right? I can always pick them back up again. So because I don't, now what you see what's missing is I need a method for saying, oh, those blobs no longer exist. So how do I add that in? So I have in my code, I'm testing, what if it's empty? What if there are no blobs historically, but I found some blobs? Or what if I have had blobs historically, but I either have the same amount of blobs that I detected or more, and now I need that last scenario, else, and this is really, I could just say else, but I'm going to say else if blobs.size is greater than current blobs.size. So now here's the thing. I'm going to need to refactor this later, but just for the sake of argument right now, I'm going to copy and paste this exact code. Okay? What I'm going to do is copy and paste this exact code because I've got to think about this for a second. My brain is working. Tick, 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 tick. But basically what I want to do is I want to say, let me look at the blobs that I do have and see if I can match them. But actually, I think what might be an interesting way of doing this, I could do it this way, but let's do it this way. I'm going to leave it the same. I was going to say I should maybe do it the other way around. Like, let's look at all the current blobs and find the closest one, and then see what blobs are left over. I could do it that way. I can't decide. Let me see. I might have to. I wanted the loop to stay the same. So let's do this. Let's think about this. So the first blob, I'm going to try to match it with something. Okay? So now, the thing is, If there are no blobs left to be matched, right, then matched will be null. Aha. As long as matched is not equal to null, then that one's matched and that blob should become it. However, otherwise, if matched is null, then this is a blob that I need to delete. So I'm going to say this particular blob I should remove. Mark for deletion. I'm going to write some function, right? I want to delete it. And I actually could just remove it right there. But this is a little bit of a problem, actually. I don't want to do this because I'm giving a big advantage to the first blob, right? I do need to do it the other way around, right? Because what I'm saying is let's think about this for a second. Let's talk this through, okay? So the scenario is, what I'm currently seeing is one blob. This is what the computer vision sees currently. But previously, historically, there were 3 blobs. Previous. So I can't loop through these blobs. I don't want to loop through these blobs and find the closest one because whichever blob I start with first is always going to find that one as the closest one. So what I actually need to do is loop through these blobs and find which one they're closest to and then delete whatever is left over. So I really do need to invert the way that that loop works. So coming back over here, what I want to do is in my outer loop, I want to look at current blobs. And then I want to, again, have a matched one. And then I want to look through the blobs historically. And then do the same sort of thing here. I want to match. Now this is confusing. I'm matching it sort of the other way around. I'm looking at all the current blobs and matching this kind of blob. And, right, so I'm trying to find the one that's matched. And then if matched is not null, that's taken and matched becomes the current blob, right? Because that is the outer loop. Okay, so I'm inverting what I'm doing there. I'm doing exactly what we did before, but just the other way around. Now at some point, then, oh yeah, and so this is actually quite nice because then what I can do, I don't have to do this mark for deletion thing. I'm going to do exactly the same thing where whatever is left over, right, after I do this, whatever blobs are not matched, and in this case I'm actually going to blobs.size minus 1. I'm going to loop through the loop backwards again. I is greater than or equals 0. I minus minus. I'm going to say int I equals, I want to delete these blobs. So I want to say if blobs.get I, okay, so hold on. Blob B equals blobs.get I. Whew. I don't know. Is anyone really going to watch this video? Then I want to say blobs.remove I only if B was not taken. Now there's a little bit of an issue here. In this case, earlier when I was saying if a blob wasn't taken, make a new blob out of it, I could guarantee that blobs that weren't taken will have the value taken as false. The problem here is I'm not 100% sure that's going to be the case because remember these blobs in this particular array persist over time. So I think something I need to make sure I do here, which is a little bit awkward, is I need to, as I'm going through this, I want to just quickly make sure taken is set to false so that when I get to the end of this loop and a set taken to true, only the one that really was taken gets set to true. Oh, no, that's a problem. I don't want to do it here. I need to do it once. I can't do it there. I want to do it once just really quickly at the very, very beginning. I'm sure somebody watching this video, before we do anything, so I think I'm just, as a safety measure, if I have more blobs historically than what I'm currently seeing, then none of them are taken. Any of them could get matched, and then whatever's left over gets deleted. Okay, now, let's see what happens. I can't imagine that I've gotten everything right here, but we can see if I did. Okay, so there are no blobs currently, and there are no blobs historically. I'm going to move this up like this. Now, there is one blob currently, and there is one blob historically. There are two blobs currently, and there are two blobs historically. Now here comes the magic thing. Take it away. Look at that. 3, 4, 5. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, I'm going to put blob number 5 on my head. Oh, this is now blob number 6. This is blob number 9, because we had some small ones. Oops, combined, that's now blob number 10. And you can see they are keeping their IDs. You know, obviously, little things are going to go wrong if the blob disappears. This is a balancing act. But you can see, this is actually working. So we did actually, somehow this works. I can't believe it. I need the, whatever the opposite sound effect of this is what I need right now for that having worked like shockingly. Now, interestingly enough, why is there still seeing a blob there? That's weird. It's not seeing any blobs currently, but there is one blob historically. So if I bring this in, that's going to be blob number 15. It's always leaving one blob left over. So that's a bug I need to fix. That shouldn't be the case. Let's see if we can fix that. And there's some other stuff I want to add to this, but I think I might do that in a separate video. Okay, so why? Oh, you know what it is? I think I know what the problem is. Let's look at what I missed. Okay, if there's empty and there are actually blobs, this is right. If they're equal or there's more, do this. But guess what? What if both of these are 0? Nah. Yeah, no, that should. Okay, what's happened? The issue is when there's one in the array list, but 0 in this. Shouldn't that happen here? There are more blobs. So hold on. I'm going to print option 3. Right? Let's just make sure that's happening in this case that I'm worrying about. What are we time-wise? 12:20. Okay. 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, leave. So we should be seeing right now option 3, option 3, option 3. So something's not working in option 3 if for some reason I'm not detecting any current blobs. This loop, I need better sound effects. This loop is in the wrong place, and it wasn't being checked because it was inside of the loop of looking through the current blobs, and there are none. So that was just my problem there. So now we should have this fixed, and we should have blobs over time. Oh, so I already found a bunch of blobs. You can see here that these blobs are keeping their ID. No matter, a real test is like kind of going around in a circle because I know that they're changing the order that they're being found. It's finding multiple blobs. So you can see they, 26, 27, 28, 29. So here's the thing. Do you notice how those numbers are getting pretty high very, very quickly? I'm not going to do this in this video, but I'm going to make a separate video to do an improvement on this, which one thing that I might say, and I'm going to leave this I don't know if I'm going to get to this today. It might be a while before this video comes out, so I'm going to leave this as an exercise. Here's what I would do next. Oh, I should just do this today. I'm going to do this today, but not in this video. But I'm going to leave this as an exercise anyway, if you're watching this. What would make sense to do is to add some sort of timer in here. So what if each blob had a timer? And I don't actually delete it. Like, I leave it on the screen for a little while. So, in other words, what if just the computer vision algorithm like flicks off for a second? It would really like delete that blob and make a new one. But if just was like a flash of light or something changed really slightly, I turn the blob, I want it to only be deleted if it really, really times out. Like if it's not been detected for at least 1 second or 2 seconds or half a second. So this is an improvement that I would suggest you giving a try yourself, but I'm going to do it in a video for you. So if you can't figure out how to do it, you'll be able to watch the next video in which I will do it. Okay? Thanks for watching. I don't know if this came together or not, but this is a video that shows you how to do persistence. I don't know why I'm recapping what was in the video because I'm just done right now. You should stop, go outside, and enjoy yourself. And get away from the computer for a little while. That's what I suggest. Okay, thanks for watching. Look for the code. It'll be in the description of this video. You can find it and play with it yourself. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.